For our main segment, we're going to talk about Mystic Arts and creator publishing. Welcome, Daði Einars, to Mastering Dungeons. It was great chatting with you during the news segment, and now we're going to really get into what you're up to.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor being here. I remember Shawn, I think on the other podcast, talking about that this was one of the largest podcasts in Iceland. Am I correct on that?
Apparently,
that seems wild to me, but like
it was something like it was. He found a list of all. It was like what people listen to in Iceland, and somehow we were a number something, and I don't remember what the number is anymore, but it was something surprisingly high of all podcasts. Was it skewed data? I honestly don't even care. I'll run with it. But we want to thank you and all other people in Iceland for that service. Hats off to you.
Oh yeah. That's my people.
Yeah. You live in Iceland. And for folks who don't know the work that you do or about you, tell us what you do in the hobby, how you got started, how you became a creator, a person who's on YouTube recording.
So I've always been one of those DMs that just makes a lot of stuff for the table. I will make my own monsters, my own adventures. I'm one of those sort of classic kind of homebrew everything dudes. I'll sort of jerry rig any system I play. I'll go mess with it. I'm kind of philosophically opposed to taking anything at written value because I'm just too damn opinionated. So I end up kind of taking whatever it is and going get it apart.
Yeah.
And when I started doing YouTube videos, there was very quickly sort of a clamoring for, can we get your homebrew rules? Can we get your setting? Can you share stuff about this? And I had to go figure out what that was going to look like because a lot of my stuff is not legible to anyone other than myself, sort of in its current state. I'll just sort of say stuff and I know what that means. So we started when we'd been doing YouTube for only a few months. We started a Patreon. We put up my firearm rules sheet because I run a sort of flintlock fantasy game where it's Renaissance flintlock guns and stuff like that. And I'd made that into like a legible PDF for my players because I wanted there to be a handout at the table that they could all go reference. And then I'd luckily done a class, so the next month I put up something like that, and very quickly I was out of the usable content that was like in any done state. But I was wrapping up my job. I worked at a video game company called Myrkur Games, and we made a game called Echoes of the End, which was like this sort of third-person fantasy action-adventure game. And we just finished a huge project, and the YouTube channel was sort of going bananas. So I figured we'd give it a go. And we ended up conscripting a lot of our friends into helping us make this stuff.
Awesome.
And thank God we did, because at this point, that is sort of my job. I think there are people who think I do YouTube full time, and I think I do like Patreon full time at this point because it is, frankly, it is what pays the bills.
Yeah.
And we'll do these supplemental rules, whether it's guidance for hex crawling or dungeon crawling. We do adventures for 5th edition, specifically like the new 2024, but plenty of my community members tell me they're running it in 2014 and some of them in Nimble.
Cool.
So like that seems to work for all groups. And just starting, so in September, we've now done several issues of a monthly magazine for 5e called The Broadsheets, which is my setting. And it contains, chapter 1 is an adventure, chapter 2 is a burrow in this sort of massive megacity, kind of Tollus or capital from MCDM, this kind of huge city. And then a third chapter with player options or lore or something like that. And once we'd gotten that kind of, I don't want to say pipeline, it sounds so, but once we gotten that sort of process figured out, we figured we'd try to make the kind of adventures I love to get, which is sort of these open exploration, the kind of content heavy stuff that's really difficult to do as a DM by yourself. You want to run a huge hex crawl. You want to have all the bits connect to each other with every dungeon being cool and unique. But I figured if a few of us go and sit down and do it, we can go figure it out. So I went and did live streams with chat. and just talked through what we would want an adventure to be. And then the audience gets to have a say, like what kind of adventure do you want to see? And they hit upon the idea of, and I can't take any credit because they'll just take a mind of their own. Suddenly it was all like, can we do Last of Us in D&D? And I was like, okay, we'll figure out our own angle on that. But yeah, we can make that work. And thus, Crown of the Fungal Queen was born. 160-page hex-crawl dungeoneering, sort of classic, almost OSR-esque, but for 5th edition. And a part of me is sort of thinking this is a little crook of the finger for people to try different styles of game, because I think it's such a fun way to play.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want to get into Fungal Queen a lot more and how you got there, but I have a couple of questions here that were asked by people on the Mastering Dungeons and AlphaStream Discord. One is very funny. Do you live on Baldur's Gata, which is a street that is in Reykjavik?
I do not, but I posted. I saw you put this in the show notes, and I clipped a section. There's a bit, I think, at minute 13 in my video on cities where I walk across Baldur's Gata. So Baldur's Gate, obviously. Baldur is a classic Icelandic name, and Gata just means road. And most of our roads are called something like this, except one of them is called Darth Vader.
Perfect. For reasons. That's great.
Yeah.
And the other really silly question was, did you immediately have beef with Matt Colville when he used the title of director for Draw Steel?
How dare he? How dare he? That's
how it works. A legendary YouTube enmity.
No, that's cool. I think it's spot on for Draw Steel. I think that's sort of. I made a video which was called like DM like a director, and the whole goal of being a director is you're a middle manager. You're sort of trying to make the people who pay for the project you're working on happy, while trying to make the actors happy, while trying to do a little bit of art in between those two fields. And I think that's what being a DM is. You're sort of trying to pitch something to both sides. And that's very similar. If you're sitting at the table behind the DM screen, you're like, how do I make all of my players have fun right now? And that's often this kind of back and forth, yes, and pitching, working in creative constraints. So I think it's a really good title for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the differences in DM styles. And, like I said in our news segment at the beginning, I was just at this birthday event that had 3 DMs running things. And all the tables were connected, but it was really fun to just see the differences between each DM and how they would approach things. And, one DM was very much like, this is how the rules are. And at one point they actually asked me for a ruling. I'm like, what do you mean? I thought it was something to do with the adventure, but it was just really like, do you think this person could come out of hiding here? And I'm like, whatever you think is fun. And it just, but everybody at the table was having fun. It was such a different way than what I would look at. I'm just like, yeah, sure. Like, it's a birthday party game. Like, come on, of course they can hide. And then, just seeing like someone else who was just very creative and descriptive and, wore an outfit and just, so all the different approaches that people have towards DMing is fascinating. And I think this is some of the energy you've really brought to your advice videos. And I want to wrap back to the Patreon side, but kind of before we leave that, just you seem to have really connected with a lot of people really well through the format of YouTube. And how did you approach that? How do you see the medium and your goals for it? Besides, being a funnel towards Patreon, things that we all have to think of as trying to make bills work and all that. But.
Yeah. I nothing would make me happier than if I could just talk and that would be like that would be enough, because we started this because I really wanted to take my neurodivergent info dumping out on people other than my closest friends, but 2, because I think once you get to a certain point in a hobby you love as much as this one, you get to a point where you want to give back to it. And that's not giving back to, whatever people want to say about, products or books or, Wizards of the Coast, and like none of that stuff. I just want to make sure that that I am able to transfer stuff that I've had to figure out the hard way, because I was lucky enough that there was a bunch of stuff I didn't have to figure out the hard way because I had YouTube. And like when I'm starting to move into 5th edition, at that point, Matt Colville is uploading, Guy from How to Be a Great DM is putting out stuff, Critical Role is putting out stuff. And that was kind of it when like in the very early days of 5th edition, dungeon YouTube. And I get the benefit of standing on the top of those giants as a dungeon master, learning from them, seeing what they're doing. And I think it requires a little bit of hubris to go, and now it's my turn. But it is also, it's also that I'd known a bunch of DMs and I taught a bunch of people D&D, and then those people were starting to become dungeon masters. And I found myself doing, when they asked me for help, I found myself doing the same, like, quote unquote, lectures for each of them. And that seemed to work. And they and we would sort of, work out whatever problems they might be having with the game or with their players or with adventures. And I found so much joy in being able to help folks with their game and getting to hear their stories running the game. I think my favorite thing I get to do on my Discord is that folks will come in and they'll tell me about the games they're running, and they all sound rad as hell. They're so cool. And like, I just love that stuff. It's so amazing. I remember, sorry, just one story. I remember getting an actor in for Echoes of the End who runs their own all Icelandic podcast, Svörtu Tungurnar, if you're an Icelandic listener. And he came on board, and all we did was talk about D&D. And in the end, we had to cut him out of the game, tragically enough. Like, we didn't have the role for him, but he would still call me. And I lent him my copy of Grim Hollow at the time, and he had that for ages. And like, that's the juice for me. Like, that is the beauty of this hobby, is that we're all just nerds creating stuff together, and nothing beats that. Yeah.
And as you said, lifting each other up, right? Where you realize I couldn't have had the same benefit without. That's on the writing side. What got me going was seeing, and in the same way that got me DMing, right? I watched my DM and I said, that's a magic. Like, what you're doing is magic. I want to do that kind of magic, and I'll do that for my friends. And now I had a second group. And similarly, when I saw people running organized play and writing and creating like that, how can I do that? I want to help. And before I knew it, I was running, a unit of longbowmen and organizing what the players were doing who were part of this armored brigade, and then on and on, interactives, and you named it, right? But it was all possible because I could see what these other folks were doing and why. And go for it.
I'll get folks in, like, to help me DM too. So like, I was running an adventure with my friends for a long ass campaign, and my girlfriend wasn't in. AB wasn't playing in that campaign, but she's in the apartment. So I would just tell her what schemes I had, and then rope her eventually without her knowing I was about to. I'd be like, can you come here and run these 5 dragons that the players are fighting right now? Nice. And she, what? No, I'm like, it's easy. You just do what it says on the stat block. Like, it's not hard.
And some folks might disagree with you about how easy that is, but apparently your plan worked.
It worked. She ran the dragons. I ran the other bad guys, and we had an amazing time. And that's how you trick your. Could you just run the goblins? I'll run the big boss. Can you run all the goblins? Like,
and
I love that.
You have a wide variety of videos that you do. What are your favorites, and why are they your favorites? And do you find that your audience agrees with what you most like to make?
There's a bit of yes and no. I tragically discovered early on that the more work I put into a video, the more better it is. So if I go outside and go film a whole section about hex crawls, that one had done really well. It got a lot of folks turned on to hex crawling. I loved making it. It was experimental. It was new, and it was fun. There are a few videos that I think have important lessons in them, and I sort of kick myself that they haven't done better on account of then more people would have seen them, like, regardless of anything, like the algorithm or metrics. Who cares? Yeah. Just the idea of, like, getting more folks to hear the advice. And one of the videos I'm very proud of was, it was about stealing stuff from other mediums. And I was just talking about, like, I love the orcs in Warhammer Fantasy. How do you put them into D&D? And nobody seemed to like watching that video, but for me, I was like, that is,
it's so good.
That is the juice. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that
yeah.
feeling. I'll be like, this adventure has such great advice. And there'll be like one guy going, I really like this video. I'm like, good. Bring your friends. Do you have any people at your house that could also watch? Because that would be helpful.
That would be great. Yeah.
And have you seen
yeah.
YouTube change a lot in this time and in ways that forces you to sort of rethink things or change how you approach things?
I think I don't know that I've been doing it long enough. I think the only change I've noticed is that the YouTube backend now tells me to use AI a lot more than it used to. There's a little button, and if I click on it, it makes thumbnails with my face on it, and it's scary good at it. Like, yeah. I think that's the only thing I've seen.
Yeah.
Screw all that.
For me, the biggest thing is just negativity, right? Like I know that I could make a video talking about how terrible something is, and people would love it. And so which is hard when I have a genuine, as you recently did, a genuine kind of like, oof, I want to be happy about this, but I'm not, with the recent Ravenloft book. And you and I did fairly similar videos. I broke up mine into 2 parts. So like, if you just want the positive, here's everything that's great about it. And like you, I agree, it's a really great book. And then there's the part of me that goes, but it's the same book you already wrote. And, my teacher would have called this plagiarism. Obviously, you own it, so it's not legally plagiarism. You get to rewrite your words if you want to, but it's essentially the same thing. It's where you take that, entry in the book and you write it in slightly different words. Are they better words? I don't know. Maybe they were really good words to begin with.
Certainly different.
They're different.
Yeah. And then there are chunks missing too. So that's like, like they added pages per domain with that, for instance. And I'm running Lamordia, and Baron von Outbrecker is not in Ravenloft Horrors Within, and he is an iconic character in Van Richten's Guide. He's like a brain in a jar on a
so cool,
like cog mech. And so like, negativity I think is rough. I tend to associate negativity in the comment section with a video doing well, oddly enough. So I tend to kind of dread videos that do really well, because I would much rather be playing my song for the same choir of folks that are here for what I'm doing, instead of folks that sort of jump in and want to argue about the title or argue about like the sort of surface level thoughts. So that Ravenloft video went like a little bit beyond what we're used to. And then now all the people who want to come comment on it are telling me that like Wizards of the Coast is evil and satanic or whatever. And I'm like, okay, like, can we just talk about the book? Like that's not what I'm on about. And same with like, whenever a video goes viral, people want to talk, they accuse me of a voice being fake or something like that. I'm like, okay, like, now here we are.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah. Well, that tells me very well why you like Patreon so much more.
Like I'll do a video and 100 people on the Patreon will watch it, and they'll talk about it on Discord, and that's bliss. Like they'll get really into the weeds of it, and like that's the juice. Really love that stuff.
Yeah. Well, before we switch completely talking about that, I wanted to mention, because I've been a part of it and really enjoyed it, the Dungeon Jam event that you run each year, and tell us how it came to be and what this is and where you see it going.
I think I'd been doing this for about a month when I first started hearing from other like creators in this space. And early on, it was a chap called Paladin Pros. He's done like videos, sort of animated videos explaining the OSR and stuff like that. And he was talking about, what if we did some kind of collaboration and like making a dungeon together or something like that. And I really wanted to see. I wanted to make sure that if we were doing something like that, we would be able to bring the best experience to folks watching, and get the opportunity of like, can we create something that people will immediately get a use out of? So, and the idea of this flipping through a vinyl store and like finding the record that you're looking for, a magazine store, or because it used to be that you could get that with adventures, and now there's 1 or 2 adventures that come out a year, if that. And I'm like, can we just get like a bunch of dungeons, and then we all get to go off and make something and give back to the community. I got in touch with a creator who started very similar time as me, Nairobi, and she's fantastic. And we ended up setting, mostly the two of us ended up setting up that first event back in 2025. And since then, the creator community has grown and grown and grown, and we had a lovely turnout this year of some 50 or 60 dungeons that are all free. They're all for whoever wants to take part, and this is also great for the creators because they are sending folks to watch each other's videos, and they're sending out into the wild their work, which for some people is the stuff they would like to do for a living. Many of these creators want to do adventure design and stuff like that. So just getting an opportunity to give something away and be like, here's a thing I made, in case that's interesting. So I think it's one of those win-win-win situations where everybody gets something out of it. And it's also just a beautiful time to be in the hobby, because we at the Mystic Arts community ended up making a bunch of dungeons too, and they all share them on the server. And I think that would be great if we found an even bigger avenue for that going forward.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, I was part of the group that it's changed hands now, but the 1-page dungeon contest in a couple of years, I got to grade those. That was amazing to see the ingenuity that people had towards a single piece of paper that has a dungeon in it. And what it should be like was just great. And the best of them, the ones that we, when we came, I think we whittled our list down. There was a lot of entries, but I want to say we got it down to 20 or 30. And then we chose the, top 5. But it was amazing to just, those top 30 were so neat. You wanted to play all of them. It was really great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. For our for the Fungal Queen thing, we did a section of the dungeons that we encouraged the community to take part in. They could win a reward, I think it was a one-on-one with me, and then access to the Patreon and stuff like that for the winners. But also the thing that came out of it is just everybody on the Discord was talking about their dungeons, and everybody was making dungeons.
That's
and then
cool.
They all posted them, and they're amazing. They're incredibly creative. And once you have those kinds of restraints, I think we said 650 words, and it has to have a map. And at that point, it's okay, how do I get that done? How do I be clever about this?
Yeah. That's
beautiful.
Neat. Yeah.
I love,
Constraints can really help like that. They funnel our brains and kind of, within these boundaries and focus it. And yeah, let's talk about that. So on your Patreon, you, as you mentioned before, you're providing broadsheets with periodic setting information. You've got individual rules you can get. So I can get your hex scrawling rules, and I can get your flintlock rules, and a number of other cool things like that. And then you've now brought a lot of those concepts together as sort of optional systems. So I can choose to use your hex scrawl rules or not in this adventure that has as you said, it's 5th edition, but it has OSR feel. And you explore the wilderness on this kind of common quest, and then there are lots of cool dungeons. And so if somebody wants it, I assume they just go to your Patreon and they can back and they can check it out.
Yeah, it's available on the Adept tier, which I think is 10 euros a month. Nice. Or if you don't like subscriptions, you can buy it. But at that point, it's 20 euros, I think it is.
So you might as well and get all the
you might
other
as well join. Or immediately cancel and just go grab the back end. It's perfectly fine. However you want to do it.
Yeah. If you're smart, you'll come back.
If we've done our job right, you'll like it enough to come back. We got to prove ourselves. No, that was fantastic. I like that burnout video that we talked about has less to do with me working on YouTube or me being a dungeon master than it has to do with me deciding to go make that damn thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, right?
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of text to write, and even the stuff I don't write, I have to go layout. I do my layout myself. I'd be better off if somebody cleverer did it, but here we are.
Yeah.
But no, that was a lot of fun because it allows us to sort of play around with, not just putting into practice the kind of things we talk about on the channel, like how to write adventures for hex scrolls or how to run a setting that's sort of industrialized fantasy, because a lot of people don't. Like, as soon as you start talking about it, they're like, that's not a thing that I've seen. So just getting an opportunity to show it, and then because it's something that we're making and selling, that means that we can get art for it, and we can go like create illustrations of the setting and the bad guys and all that kind of stuff. So I'm incredibly proud of the work we did and the work the team did there.
You should be.
Small team that we have.
There's some really neat parts to it. There's a part where and a couple parts like this where you'll use a stat block. So like I remember one where I really saw it there, a group known as the Rail Runners, which is also a good example of sort of taking a Western feel, a flintlock feel, a clockwork almost, but more industrial kind of view of the world, find it and ground it in the story. But then in this sort of Wild West type town, you've got these rail runners, and there is a common stat block for the enemies, but then little action blocks that make the individual NPCs that you're going to possibly fight different. One of them uses dynamite, another casts spells, another fires a gun. That's really neat. How did you come up with that approach to use?
So I'm always trying to make sure that everything you need right now is on the page in front of you, or on the spread in front of you, or on the next one. Like, so when we go, here are the rail runners, you're going to fight them throughout this whole adventure. And these two spreads in this one dungeon is what I mean by that. I wanted to put all the stat blocks on the page. I wanted to put the names of the guys on the page. And I was just trying to figure out, how do I do it without repeating myself? Like, you don't need to have 4 hit point difference between the spellcaster and the one who isn't a spellcaster. Like, does that matter? It probably doesn't. So I've often run monsters like this. I tend to think of them as elite teams, and there's obvious inspiration from like the Black Iron Pact and Flea Mortals, and trying to think of, can I get that one bad guy, like if it's a team of 5 bad guys, can I make it be simpler for me to just look at and run and make them immediately feel different? So in the past, I've taken bandits and just stuck different actions depending on which one of them it is. And I usually do it by the mini. I'll look at a mini and be like, this one has a gun, this one has an axe.
Love it. That's really smart.
And then I make a stat block.
I should do that more often because I have a lot of minis.
I buy minis from everywhere, and a lot of the time I'm like, how do I make anything out of this? And it's just trying to figure out what this one's really tall. How do I make that be mechanically different?
That's great.
I
love it. And so you do a really nice job of providing a lot of things in this adventure without it feeling overwhelming. Like, I think if I were to rattle off all the things I saw, someone would say, oh, there's no way that all works. But it actually does, and it doesn't feel overwhelming at all, which I liked when I was reading it. Like the exploration rules or your dungeoneering rules, the different dungeons, the setting parts. There's a lot there, and that must have been a lot of fun for you to play with, and for the people on your Discord.
I really, I'm so happy we managed to get the 5-room dungeons right, because that's sort of the bulk of the thing. And then, if you're going to do a hex crawl this big, you have to make sure that all the stuff that is connected is on each of because you don't know what order the DM is running things in. So you got to put all the clues in there. You got to make sure that, hey, this person is working for that person. See that page over there, just sort of connecting all these things. We put a lot of care into that. And then the 5-room dungeons each can't just be, and then heroes and bad guys. They all have to have a little story to them, like an episode of Doctor Who or like any episodic television. You walk in, you're like, what is the story of this dungeon? Yeah, and there's like some great locations here. Some of them are bigger locations. Some of them are small. Like Rotwall is a really neat sort of just quirky thing to run against as you're going through an area of wilderness, and suddenly there's this huge wall and you've got to figure out how to traverse it. And Rat Home, which has some great art of rats spilling forth, and the Library of Worlds. Those all stuck out to me. Any locations? The library is so good that you want to chat with, share with folks about? The library is great. That's one of our contest winners, and he'd invented a mechanical meat of GLaDOS from Portal and Don Quixote from the Man of La Mancha, and he's called El Manchego, which is a cheese from La Mancha. So we saw that when we were like, all right, that's got to be it. That's so creative. I'm really happy with the orc dungeon, the Many Teeth tribe as well. That one's got a connection. It's one of those early ones that we had to sort out very. The trick with the first dungeon you might get to is that it has to be able to send you to many other places. So if you go to the obvious first dungeon and it has an obvious second dungeon, then you're not playing Hexcrawl. So we had to send the players to the orc dungeon fairly early. I think it's one of the first plot hooks you get. And then from there, the orcs made a deal with the hag, meaning there's a hook into the hag dungeon there. The orcs are celebrating a victory from the logging camp, meaning you might now go find that logging camp. And they also made a deal with the bad guys in town. So you might now go back to town and go deal with that there. So just making sure that every option had like 3 forks out of it that would send you in different ways. So nobody's going to play it the same way. And it's going to be up to the players to figure out like, how am I going to approach this? What's the thing I want to do next? And create that sort of debate amongst the players, because we also included like, the pre-mates had like special level up conditions. And we thought, what if we make it so that the players are going to want different things? They're going to have a little negotiation. Okay, we'll do my thing and then we'll do your thing, or
Very cool. Love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, good. So if folks want to check that out, they can go to patreon.com and find Mystic Arts DM, and then you'll see a post there for Crown of the Fungal Queen. Really excellent fun. And so I'm curious, seeing that you've been able to create this. This is really a neat thing. You've gone from smaller subsystems to 160 pages. But I know it's hard to balance a YouTube channel, creating Discord, all of that. How are you doing it, balancing all this? Where do you see it going in the future?
I'm tired.
That's the right feeling.
I think that's perfectly. I'm tired. No, like the truth of the matter is that I've always been a person that thrives off of getting to do the stuff I love. And I have worked all kinds of jobs in my life, and I regularly remind myself, if I'm feeling exhausted or tired, I regularly remind myself of how lucky I am that I get to do this, and how there are many people who would love to be in this position. And for me, that means not taking it for granted. And sometimes that means I will get real tired, and I have a lovely day tomorrow planned. Tomorrow's my birthday. I've got a board game that's for one person only, and I will be playing that all day and doing nothing else. That is my self-care. But I love the idea of getting to do this kind of stuff. And for me, each of these projects comes from a place of having nothing to do for a second, and then I go make something because I'm excited, and I get reinvigorated by the projects I get to make. And I'll have a crazy idea and I'll rope my friends in, and they all tell me I'm insane, and then somewhere around the finishing stretch I regret it all, and then as soon as it's done I jump on the next one. That's just kind of how I work.
Yep. I know a lot of people who use that path. Well, you're doing great with it. Somehow it's all working. I don't say don't change it, but so far it's working. So, I had a couple of questions that came up from folks on our Discord. You do a fair amount of system hacking and talk about different systems on your show. Have you looked at Legend of the Rings 5e or Nimble 5e? And do you have any quick takes on those?
Legends of the Rings or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Legends of the Five Rings.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings.
I have the Lord of the Rings one. I've looked at it a little. Not as much as I would have liked. I have a terrible hobby of collecting RPG books that I then read far too little of. I looked at Nimble quite a lot recently, and I was very entertained by the way their monsters work. They're solo monsters. They get like actions after every turn and stuff like that. I thought it was
that's cool.
I think there's so much fertile ground to be done with special like 5th edition monsters. So like taking a look at stuff like Nimble, or hell, I'll look at Pathfinder 2 monsters. I get a huge kick out of seeing what kind of abilities they stick on them. They're really creative.
Yeah, that's very true. Good point. Yeah. What are your favorite non-D&D
same with Draw Steel
role-playing games? Yeah, you mentioned Draw Steel. What other games do you really dig?
I played Vagabond recently. I had a lot of fun with that. It's a fairly simple like rollover system, but it's got this sort of character customization built in. One of the strengths of it is that because it incentivizes players to optimize their builds. When I handed the book to my players, they all went and memorized the entire rule set immediately because they were like, "Oh, we can optimize. Okay, I better learn everything," which I hadn't had when trying several similar sort of new SR or whatever styles of game. I played a bit of Draw Steel. I had a lot of fun with it. I played it on Owlbear Rodeo because this is before the Codex came out, and I'm really excited to try it on the Codex and try like a crazy Rock'em Sock'em heroic adventure game. So whether that's Crack the Sun or whether it's going to be the Fall of Black Bottom, I think is going to be right up my alley as well.
Yeah, the other one that's really neat is The Condemned, which Matt has talked about. I didn't have anything to do with this, but
that the pre-mates.
Yeah, you play pre-gens, or you could also make your own. But the idea is it has a familiar premise to folks who like comic books, but you are condemned to die, and at the last minute, instead you're given this job to do.
Oh yeah,
and you've got these collars that will ensure that you will do the job. But it is pretty wild because you get to sort of be Team Evil and go off and do these crazy things, and it's really neat. It's a very fun, good way to introduce people to Draw Steel with a longer experience and a medium-sized experience.
I think I'm really excited to try Draw Steel in that sort of premise because I played the Delian Tomb, which is it's that sort of old-timey we're a bunch of normal people about to go save the normal town, but we are first level Draw Steel heroes, so we are in fact not normal people. I was kind of shell-shocked playing that, but I really look forward to trying it with the explicit premise of we are really awesome and we're gonna
dangerous people doing wild things, big things. And Crack the Sun has a lot of that premise too. Very quickly, it has some. I'm reading the last 2 acts right now and developing them, and just amazing things our authors did with that. So really fun. Yeah, let's see. So, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but a couple other questions. In a long-term campaign, is it possible to have many plot leads that either players or the DM director forgets about or loses interest in? Or it is possible for that to happen. And when this happens, my knee-jerk reaction is to try to pull the loose end back into the story somehow. What advice do you have for dealing with those loose ends that you've kind of forgotten about? And like, oh yeah, there was that thing.
I run in a persistent world. So whenever I'm running a campaign, if there's a loose end that doesn't get resolved, I can have another campaign go pick that up.
Okay.
And then it's no skin off my back. My players go, what about that thing in the Arid with the Black Pharaoh? And I go, wow, we'll have to figure out what happens with the Black Pharaoh when we run that adventure, right?
Oh, cool.
The other thing I've done is I played a game of Microscope at the end of a very long campaign. I think we were at level 17 in D&D 5e. And I said, let's all take a break and let's play 3 game nights of Microscope. If you're familiar with that, you write down an era and event. And I said, we are going to figure out, here are the 3 things you're not allowed to put on a card because they will be in the final chunk of the adventure. Everything else is fair game. What happens to the world in this, war, this last war that's breaking out right now? And the players came up with some really interesting things. And I would then say, that right there, this loose plot thread somebody put on a card, this is not going to be an era card. This is going to be an adventure card. And I'd get out a different index card. I'd rewrite the note and I'd put it down. And then we played that session or that mini adventure. And that way I could sort of bounce around the timeline and wrap up loose ends. That was great
really
fun.
Cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm generally, when I'm running things and people don't want to play with it, I just discard it. And there was a funny time I was running a Deadlands campaign, and they come up over a hill and they see these what I thought were very intriguing carts with maybe some things sticking out, or you'd have to get closer, really see what's under the tarps that these people are carrying. And one of the players goes, "Yeah, that's a side quest. Let's go on back, continue on to town." And I'm like, okay, and they all agreed, and so they went to town and do it. And then later they like wanted to know, and I'm like, it wasn't just a side quest. It did link to your plot, and you won't know what it is because it went away. Like you don't get it now. You're like, you chose not to. And there was a lot.
You chose not to get it. I can't go tell you now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what exactly was there? And there was another one too that they met along the same trip, and they're like, that's another side quest. We don't need to lose health over this. Let's keep going. Like, okay. No problem, but it went away. It went away. So, well, fantastic. Yeah.
I'll add. I get a huge kick out of like when you do manage, when you're like that. We're getting to the end of the campaign. If you find a way, like an easy way, if you have to go pull it in, no. But if you're like, there's a window where I can go. And under the tarp was this, and then the bad guy gets an extra action to go go screw with you with you could do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Bring it back in a sudden. Yeah.
If you get a window, if it becomes easy, if it's tough, don't do it. But if it becomes like it's just a little little thing,
we'll
go
call
for
back. Well, you could have stopped this, but you didn't. So now I have the huge Gatling gun or whatever. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. One last question here. How do you evaluate game systems, and how have you kept D&D 5e working for you amidst a shifting play culture and aesthetic of the game and all these options? Like, how are you, despite looking at all these cool systems that you're evaluating, how do you end up back at D&D?
I think so. I think this is one of those questions you were saying earlier about in the first part of the show. You were talking about how wizards might assume that we are all D&D Beyond users. Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of those questions that, to me, I wonder if you assume that we are all following the trends of play culture. Because I have a group of friends who do not know who the people I look up to in the creator space are. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I was working with so-and-so on a video, and they blankly stare at me. They have no idea because they are not in this. They aren't RPG fans. They aren't D&D fans. They are fans of the campaign we play together. Mm. And that is the thing that is the juice for them. And at no point have we had such a big brush up with the system that we're playing that it matters to any degree more than just the sort of collective story that we're telling together. And I think we could have told that story in any system. I think, there are plenty of games that we could have, why aren't you playing XYZ? I think they would have all worked mostly perfectly fine. However, I also make stuff and I have fun with making stuff, and they sort of allow me to a little bit push the scale. So, whether that's stuff like my excursion resting system is one, for instance, where we take a longer time between long rests. That's going to allow the whole game to feel different. And oftentimes I find small changes like that might be more conducive to my players understanding the mechanics, because only 1 or 2 or 3 things have changed, not the whole engine. But having said that, we try out other games and we sort of visit them and we have a lot of fun with them. We buy those products and then we'll go to a cabin and we'll go get grill food and we'll go pick out, the Dragonbane box set or whatever it is, and we'll go set up a game and we'll have great fun. But the thing that makes it real to us is the time we spend in it. And that's sort of counter-ethical to a certain degree of trying many systems for a long time. We can go visit, we can go play around, we can see what we like, and at some point we will try a system and we'll swap 100%. But in the current state, it's more about, can we spend another 100 hours with these characters to really get into the weeds of it? And how often, I think in an average session of mine, we probably I don't know, combat every 5 sessions, barely roll any dice sometimes for weeks on end. We're just making stuff up. The system is so secondary to what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that, I think sometimes that is what makes D&D work pretty well, is that because it's so flexible, it can allow very easily for that, which a lot of folks have talked about.
Yeah, like D&D's biggest strength is also its biggest flaws, is that it's sort of fundamentally inoffensive. and that that makes it so that I think lots of very different players can have a decently fun time with it. Yeah. Whereas a lot of the times when we'll try something else, I'll find that out of the player group, these two people think this is the best thing in the world, and these two people are having a terrible time. And some of us are like, we could have done this without anything. Did I need to read the rule book? And I'm like, well, and sometimes they don't, and they have a perfectly decent time. So
that's
I think the thing that I get most excited about is when I see systems that sort of know what they are. That gets me really excited. I really like the opening draw steel, and there's a whole section in there about this is what you do in this game. Hell yeah. I bought a cowboy Morkborg thing called, hang on, I can't believe I'm on Mastering Dungeons and I'm going to shout out a game and I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
No, that ain't it.
While you're looking, I will say I do find that is really increasingly important for, I think back in the olden days, people would just assume my game has a shot at being D&D. And I think publishers are starting to realize, probably I'm not going to be doing, wide global distribution and spending millions the way that Wizards does. So probably I'm going to be different. And if I am going to be different, well, then how do I actually, in some ways it's freedom. Like you get to make that game you really want and then tell people what that is. Here's what it does.
Do exactly what you want. It's so specific because like you have the luxury, if you're working in RPGs, you have the luxury of working in one of the cheapest mediums that you could be working in. Like, and that's not to say it's cheap, but hey, there are video games and there are movies and there are TV shows. You don't get to just make one of those. Like that's not how that works. But you can go write an RPG. And you can go put it up on RPG Trader or Drive-Thru RPG. So go ahead and make it as idiosyncratic as you want to, because someone out there is going to find their game with your game.
Yeah,
it was called Frontier Scum.
Frontier Scum.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Frontier Scum. The front cover says a game about helter-skelter gunfights in gutter-mucked streets and dying 2d6 days later. And I saw that in my friendly local game store. I didn't even think. I was just like, this is what I want. I will buy this and I will play this. This sounds awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Pirate Borg is like that too. Just the whole Borg system is, but Pirate Borg, it does such a good job. I think better than a lot of Borgs. It really says, this is what this game is doing, and let's go there, right? And like, great. And it is superb fun. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I know you've got an event to go to, so I don't want to keep you longer. Thank you for spending this much time with us and filling in for Shawn.
This is lovely.
Greatly appreciated. We really thank you for coming in. Continued success. We look forward to seeing how both your YouTube and your Patreon change over time. And so folks who want to find you, where can they go to seek you out and see all this good stuff we're talking about?
I'm Mystic Arts on YouTube and on Patreon, and we do videos on YouTube every Thursday talking about how to help you take your game from being novice to adept. And I think that's about it. Just come say hi. Go click and see what YouTube recommends to you, and see if make any sense to you. And if not, go watch Mastering Dungeons. They're great.
I think they'll stay. Well, thanks again for being on the show. Really fantastic. And,
thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll see you soon. Take care.